Hello. Hey. Hi. How are you all doing? My fellow Americans and foreigners alike who represent the global community within this post-911 era of a new millennium, of this apocalyptic day and age, and where's the doomsday clock is now at a few minutes to midnight, compared to how formerly previously prior to then. It was at 1:45 for these rather biblically prophetic times. How are you all doing? Well, hopefully everyone is doing at least okay. If not, better yet to be said, to be feeling all right. If not, best of all, to be said, to be feeling blessed than stress, more blessed than stress, or too blessed to possibly become or be stressed. You and yours, your family and friends, and hopefully me and mine likewise. But then, regardless of whatever I could speak upon, be it one subject matter or an issue at hand, or some such or a topic of discussion, of a given argument to be debated with the many different views and opinions associated with some such of conversation, of dialogue, or be it were to be of a couple, few, or four, or more for that matter. But then don't kill the messenger. I'm just here to deliver. And hopefully, with that much less of a chance to be playing the part of the devil's advocate. And that's the lesser two evils being a prodigal son. Whether the worst two evils is any one of those false brethren, the likes of wolves in sheep's clothing, snakes in the grass, supposed so-called holier than thous, of modern day religious Pharisees and Sadducees. Being of the worst or the worstest of unbelievers and unbelievers, being the deceivers who pretend to be believers in God, as in Christians, aka Protestants. And therefore they themselves Being of these religious church hypocrites, religious charlatans, religious chameleons, religious con artists are likewise other worse of the worstest, are closet devil worshippers, being of whom make up the majority of churchgoers or whatsoever religious denominations, from the pools to the pulpits of members and visitors alike. But then, nevertheless, likewise, let me say, and hopefully, whatever I could speak upon, or how many subject matters, or given arguments to be debated with the many different views and opinions associated with their, be it of controversy or not, be it of an issue that has yet to be resolved if it has not been already. But then hopefully I will speak with that much less usages of expletive of profanity, much rather than instead of with that much more cuss words. And don't kill the messenger, I'm just here to deliver. And now that I have gotten the basic preliminaries, now I got the preliminaries, basic intro as an introduction out the way, so let me commence upon speaking upon something. To begin with, I say, for example, let me just say, prez-of-d.c, presidential candidate, running against your political challenger, being of whom, or who had ran against your political challenger, of another presidential candidate, being of whom has been most recently elected or has become the president-elect. I must say, remove yourself, go away gracefully, then go away like, a shameful pig. You have run your course of 4 years. Now, let the new president, the president-elect, move in with little or no ado, with that much less a conflict of interest coming from you. Go ahead, Joe Biden. It's your turn now. The Donald Trump is finished. Regardless of whether or not he were to run for a second bid to the White House, a third bid to the White House, like 4 years later from now, as we have it of 2020, was he had lost the general political election for some reason or another. Perhaps being because himself is a closet Klansman, or could possibly be just that, of a racist redneck. Correct me if I'm wrong. Homer Simpson, stand down. Stand by and stand down. Homer Simpson. You too, KG. Kathy Griffin. Hello, hey, hi everybody. Social media finally being a whatsoever racist, but then not necessarily being a whatever walks of life, factions of society, lifestyle preferences, and being of the old, young, like above two sexual genders, or males and females represent not only the human species, but then the global community. For this post 911 era of our new millennial apocalyptic day and age, in which the doomsday clock is now at a few minutes of midnight, compared on to how formerly previously prior to then it was at a quarter midnight for these rather biblically prophetic times. And as is a global pandemic. How are you all doing? Well, hopefully everyone is doing at least okay, not better yet to be said, to be feeling all right. But not best of all to be said to be feeling blessed and stressed, more blessed and stressed, too blessed to possibly become or be stressed. You and yours, your family and friends, hopefully me and everybody likewise. That's where all the same word, so I say, regardless of whether or not that my person is speaking correct, proper standing English grammar of American dialect or not. much better in position, much better for y'all to see me. You can really well want you to hear me. And not have a disagreement. Well, there would be no discrepancy in due regard in reference to some suspense. Yes, so as you all know, we have a new president now. So that the presidency can start all over from scratch. And hopefully we could make do on correcting 4 years of mistakes coming from a former or previous president of the USA. And to some who would think of it as 4 years of damn hell when a president is constantly lying to the general public upon the North American continent that is supposed to represent, that is for our own particular country and nation, for the Western Hemisphere upon some says. I say, or how you say, a democratic republic or democracy. Whereas, well, I don't think it's the first time that we, as American citizens, have had a closet Klansman president. You know what I'm saying? I mean, after all, they said that the only reason why Abraham Lincoln had decided to, no, woman, how does it go? Something about the only reason why he sided with the Northerners has been because he didn't want to be on the losing side of the Civil War. And at the same time wanted to kill 2 birds with 1 stone by, supposedly saving the Union or the United States of America by choosing the supposed so-called better equipped northern side of that battle of the Civil War. And this country or nation has that imbalanced checks. It has defaulted on its payments to certain non-whites peoples, especially when it comes to blacks. And that's a crying shame. But now we have a new start, with the presidency, and hopefully the president-elect can correct many wrongs, being of which could have possibly been or may have been, I have said, committed by a former or previous president of the USA. Of someone or such one who could be possibly secretly rooted in the invisible empire of the KKK, Ku Klux Klan. And how can a country be great if its leader is a Klansman? How can it become great if its leader is a Klansman, a racist redneck of a white president of the USA, United States of America? Talking about make America great again. When has America ever been great? Well, with a few or so time frame period legacies to its greatness, like the great civil rights movement era, you know, whereas the USA has never really been great before, with the exception of some of such, you know, historical time frame periods to try to make it become or be much more truthful to its legacy constitutions on paperwork, parchment documents. You know, understand what I'm saying? Otherwise, the USA would not be considered as a great democratic experiment, but rather a great democratic failure. And more likely, more often than not, that's what we've been living within this supposed so-called democratic republic democracy of the USA up under a Klansman, a closet Klansman president of the USA for the last 4 years. Okay. One who wants to scrap that being quite an impressive health system that was established by a former ex-president before he come into being, just because that former ex-president's name was upon policies and procedures for medical health system. And now who looks like mud is on his face, who has been kicked out the White House and been replaced by, a new president-elect after he had his run of the country for 4 long years. And what has he done in those 4 long years to increase race relations upon a much better note of interest, to have a positive rather than a negative effect? People or persons can only put up with so many lies, and when the roosters come home to nest, bye bye. But hopefully not by means of an assassination attempt upon any political leader or politician, supposed so-called political leader. Now, this one in particular can or could possibly be called a political loser, And he brought his loss on himself to lose out on his second term in the White House, because a certain president, a certain former ex-president of the USA, just lies too much. People, persons don't want to be hearing all those lies all the time. It's insulting the general public's intelligence or intellect when you lie all the time, or practically all the time, or somewhat, if not altogether, mainly or mostly just lie, as the majority of politicians go about with their lives, making promises that they never keep, attempting to play on American citizens and on foreigners' emotions when they try to play the game of well, would you be better off at having another go at it with this president or with a new one? And to find out that if a newly elected politician gets in the office, 9 times out of 10, more often than not, the majority of newly elected politicians who get into office just repeat what former ex politicians who had held their offices. It's just the same old run of the mill politics being orchestrated and or initiated, but up under a new face and a new name to complement a vintage classic pop culture song number. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Hopefully, we don't have just another Donald Trump in the White House up under another name. Understand what I'm saying? Whereas if politicians make promises, they should keep some of such. Okay? Don't make any promises that either you can't keep or you're not thinking about keeping. You understand what I'm saying? Because then and there, you insult the general public's intelligence or intellect. You know, I mean, if a politician comes forth that will try to be truthful or sincere in his or her undertakings, then that politician don't have to worry about getting reelected again. You know what I'm saying? Because 9 times out of 10, more often than not, that politician is going to get elected again. You know. You know what I'm saying? It's the politician, though, on the other hand, that be's in office for one's term, and out of all that time that one has set one musty, rusty, dusty upon the seat of some political office as a holder of the same and does little or nothing to make things better, not just for one race of people's persons, but for all races of people's persons, for all American citizens and all foreigners alike who may want to possibly apply for citizenship status. You know, nobody likes a liar, though. Not even oneself. I mean, usually when you lie, you have to cover it up with another lie. Just repeating the lying process, But the sad thing, that is sad or the worst part of it is that when you lie, you so much just act like as if, your lie, if it's repeated so many times, could possibly, seem much more than seem like the truth, as if it could ever become or be the truth in time. That never happens. It's like telling, a bunch of Jewish POWs within a German Nazi concentration camp. If you fight for the right, if you fight if you fight for us to help us make the Reich survive, regardless of the allies, upon the outskirts of our present empire that seems to be falling to bombardment, to attacks from the outside, then maybe, just maybe, we'll recruit more than quite a few of you in our rank and file to show us how we can or could possibly become less like Nazi fascists, or even so, less like communists, and then from there could possibly create something similar to a democratic republic or democracy, if not exactly like some such. Come on now. cut the crap. You hear what I'm saying? I mean, the old machine does not work if it has little or no democracy. It has little or no democratic or some of such that could be accredited to a democracy. You know, if a fascist Nazi male of the rank and file of the Third Reich back then would say to a Jewish male upon the continent of Europe dominated by Nazi fascism until the Allies were to finally liberate the continent of Europe and say, if you tell your Jewish females to lay down flat on their backs and spread their legs so that we German males can get on top of them and between their legs, in due time, we're going to, make you our equals. You won't have to worry about any kind of future blitzkrieg anymore or anything like that. And graffiti to be placed on the windows of your Jewish stores, or German Nazi swastikas and all that. If your your female relatives would be persuaded by you all as your Jewish male relatives to start to lay down on their backs and spread their legs and let us German fascist Nazi males go for some of such coming from them, then we'll become like one big happy family. I mean, anybody with half their marbles would be like saying, "Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Come on now. Come on, man. Come on. Carry that fool's logic on to somebody else, All the same as it could be said, like if somebody were to say, okay, we're like foreign invaders of whites upon the black continent of Africa. And we promise that if you coloreds or Negroes across the great waters of the Atlantic, if you all want to live in a much better way, then we should not have to pull out any six shooters upon y'all. Y'all should just line up and start entering these big slave ships and be like ready to from there be chained to the oars or chained all together like so many fish in a can of sardines and then be transported across the great waters to the new world, And nevertheless, if certain ones of us white male sailors want to get on top of between the legs of any black females at random, being of whom we could possibly want to invite to the new world, want to get on top of them between their legs with or without the iron or steel shackles to secure them to make sure that none of them get away, then your male rival counterparts should just sit back and relax, be they chained up or not. Can't say likewise, be we have six shooters trained on them or not. But we would more than likely more often not have the six shooters trained on them just in case they may want to, get to showing their uncivilized ways and come off like savages, being that because we're just trying to help them understand the process of establishing and then promoting civilization as we know it, as we would like to think is much better than you all's. After all, you're over here in your country and you have yet to understand the concept of making your country, your nation to become industrialized and so forth. So if we come through your different jungles or tribes and see any females we like, you should try to, as you male rival counterparts to them or your own race of people, a person should try to convince them to just lay flat on their backs and spread their legs while many of us white males or foreigners get on top of them and get between their legs even before we would have transport them over across the great waters of the Atlantic to the New World. Get out of here. What a crock. Like, seriously, though? You get more than quite a few spears in you coming from their male rival counterparts if we can manage to pull it off regardless of your six shooters. But then you know what history had you know chronicled, unfortunately. And so here blacks are in the new world, majority of us still coming off like the 10 lost tribes of Israel, so forsaken and so enslaved. That's why whenever any blacks come forth to start a revolution, it puts the fear of God in white people's souls. Well, mainly or mostly those who are racist rednecks or closet Klan and closet Nazis. And because they're stuck on stupid. They're brain dead or brainless. And that's why blacks, Hispanics, and Asians at that would cater more to the liberal white persons, much more than to the racist redneck white persons. And if any non-whites of other races have beef with a black race of people's persons, then it's only been because you're a brain dead, brainless, effing idiot fool. You know what I'm saying? You're freaking imbecile or ignoramus. And you need to get your thinking unclouded. You need to do some sort of research, you know, upon historical facts. Not that all white persons are bad. There are good and bad persons in all races of peoples. Ancestral lineage and the descendants or generations coming forth from their the family tree. Anyway, though, y'all, I'm going to wrap this up, okay? And it is by saying, if you haven't gotten Christ as your own personal Lord and Savior, I hope that you think to do so now while the blood is still running warm in your veins. Recognizing or realizing what he himself had done or did upon the cross Calvary on Hill of Golgotha, suffering at the hands of some sort of Roman soldiers up on the orders of their religious appears, being a Pharisees and Sadducees. Then, nevertheless, as he went to that cross of Calvary to become the perfect sacrifice, the only sacrifice for you and me, so that if any of us being on whatsoever race and whatever walks of life, fashion, society, lifestyle preferences, being on the old, young, like both two sexual genders, males and females represent not only the human species but the global community within this post 911 era of the new millennium of the apocalyptic DNA, and where the doomsday clock is now at a couple few minutes to midnight. Compared on how forming periods were prior to today, and it was at a quarter midnight, which is rather biblically prepared time where we profess some such faith in him, and then we become and be blessed in one regard or another. In more ways, one first and foremost was we would inherit the kingdom of heaven, become citizens thereof, once we would profess him as our Lord and Savior. Then second of all, we will be blessed with deliverance while we're down here. We would ensure our immortal human souls for the afterlife. Otherwise, we have nothing common if any of us do not accept him as a personal Lord and Savior. While we are still here on planet Earth before we would have transcended elsewhere.